this is Jo from Maths Tutor Me. Today we're doing percentages and ratios, and we're going to be finding a percentage of an amount. Now, we're going to be learning two different strategies to do this without a calculator before we learn how to use the calculator method. Okay, so straight into the examples. This is our first non-calculator method. Some percentages are relatively easy to find in our head, which is when we find percentages like 1% or 10%. So in this first example, find mentally 4% of 300. So 4% is not a very easy percentage to find, but 1% is. So if I was to find 1% of this amount, we have 300. So 1% of that would just be dividing that by 100, which would just be equal to 3, wouldn't it? Okay, so 1% is 3. So if I wanted to find 4%, I would just need to times my 1% by 4. And 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so 4% of 300 is 12. Final answer here. Okay, let's try that strategy again for B. I want to find 20% of 180. Okay, doing this mentally without a calculator, 10% would be an easy percentage to find, okay, because that would just be dividing this number here by 10, which would be 18. So 10% is 18. So 20% would be double the 10%, wouldn't it? So 20% would be 2 lots of 18, which is 36. Okay, so that's one way of doing it without a calculator. Another way is to use our fractions. So in question 2, use fractions to find each of the following without using a calculator. I want to find 40% of 700. So to turn it into a fraction, remember a percentage is always out of 100, or in other words, over 100. Of means that I want to multiply that by 700. So 40% of 700. Now I need to simplify that using my fraction skills rather than the calculator. So let's put that over 1 and let's see what we can simplify. I could divide 700 by 100, which would just give me a 7 up here on the top. Then I can multiply 40 times 7. Let's just do 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And then I add the 0 on. So it's 280. There's only 1 on the bottom, so that's it, 280. So 40% of 700 is 280. Let me show you that again for B. 25% of 320. 25% can be written as 25 over 100. Times by, of means times by 320. Put that over 1 to make it a fraction as well. Now we want to try and simplify. 25 and 100, okay, they simplify nicely. I can divide both of those by 25, giving me a 4 here and a 1 on the top. 4 and the 320. Well, forgetting about the 0 there, 32 divides nicely by 4. It gives me 8. So putting the 0 back on, that would be 80 if I divide that by 4. And divide that by 4, I get 1. So basically everything's been reduced down to 1s except for this 80 here. 1 times 80 is 80 over 1. So 25% of 320 is 80. Okay, now hopefully you've been following that, but thankfully now we get to use our calculator, which will make these even easier. Question 3, use a calculator to find 53% of 482. So we set them out a bit like we were doing over here. I like to write them as a fraction. So 53% of 482. But instead of having to do all these calculations in our head, we can type that in the calculator. So 53 over 100 times by 482 is, let's do it as a decimal, 255.46. Okay, let's do it again. 2% of 1,360. 2% means 2 over 100. Of means times 1360 in the calculator. 2 over 100 times by 1360 as a decimal is 27.2. Okay, now into some more practical question down here. Question 4. A hardware store advertises a discount of 30% on all electric tools. What fraction of the regular price is the discount? Okay, the discount is 30%. I want to write that as a fraction. Percentages can be turned into fractions by putting them over 100. And we could simplify that, divide top and bottom by 10, giving us 3 over 10. B, what fraction of the price will be paid after the discount? Well, if we get 3/10 is the discount, that means that we're actually paying 7/10. Does that make sense? And finally, part C, what will be the discounted price on a Hedge trimmer marked at $429? Okay, if I want the price, remember I'm paying 7/10. So I want to pay, or I need to pay 7/10 of the $429. In the calculator, fraction 7/10 of means times 429 means that you'll pay $300.30. Okay, time for you to try some of these. Okay, so pause the video, try these questions, and then restart to see if you get the same answers as me. So for question 1, we want to mentally find 20% of 210. So we could find 10% easily. 10% would just be taking a 0 off this. It would be 21. That means that 20% would be 2 lots of that. We just need to double this. It would be 42. Question 2, we want to use fractions to find each of the following without a calculator. So using our fractions, 30% is 30 over 100. Of means times by 120. We put that over 1 and we try to simplify our fractions. I can divide 30 and 100 by 10, and I can divide by 10 out of there and there as well. So I've completely divided away my 100. So all that is left is for me to times 3 times 12, and that makes 36. So 30% of 120 is 36. Let's do it again for B. 75% is 75 over 100. Of means times by 500. Put it over 1 to make it a fraction. So I can cancel 100 from here with 100 from there, making that just a 5. And all I have to do is times 75 by 5. Okay, you might want to do a little multiplication over here on the side, or maybe I'll do it over here, I have more room. 75 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And 7 times 5 is 35. Add on the 2 more is 37. So that is going to be equal to 375. Question 3, we're allowed to use our calculator now to find 0.9% of 340,000. So 0.9% will be 0.9 over 100 times by 340,000. In the calculator, we get 0.9 over 100 times by, we get 3,060. Part B, we want to find 87% of 730. So 87% is 87 over 100 times by 730 in the calculator. 87 over 100 times by 730 as a decimal. $635. Actually, it's not dollars, just 635.1. Question 4. Alex needs to download 118 megabyte file. If 65% has already been downloaded, find how many megabytes have been downloaded. Well, we've downloaded 65%. We need to find 65% of that. So that means 65 over 100 times by 118. We can use the calculator for this. 65 over 100 times by 118. So that is 76.7 megabytes that have been downloaded. Part B, how many megabytes still need to be downloaded? Well, what's left? We have to download 118, so if we take away the 76.7, that will tell us how much is left to be downloaded. So that's 41.3 megabytes. Okay, that's the end of our lesson on finding a percentage of an amount. Keep practicing. Bye.